right, so Notre Dame is now on their longest winning streak under Marcus Freeman. At number 12 in basketball, we would call that a bubble team with the 12-team playoff that we're experiencing right now. A dominating performance, though, against a previously undefeated Navy team.
This is the second year in a row that Notre Dame has a top 10 defense. Al Golden has done a remarkable job on that side of the ball. They took a Navy offense today that had been gashing people and absolutely dominate them. So that's given time for this team offensively to try to figure out what its identity is.
Yeah, causing turnovers was a big part of it against Navy, and especially when you consider what's ahead on the Notre Dame schedule. Army's the only other ranked team out there. You don't have like USC and Florida State being down so much. What did you see today, though, Rick, from these guys, from Riley Leonard, that gives you confidence going forward?
It's a typical Notre Dame defense. They're a top 10 team in the country on almost every category. Points scored, yards allowed, and they were obviously a ball hawking today to get that many turnovers.
Except for maybe that one play.
What's interesting for this team, they are dependent on the committee, right? Because they don't play in a conference. They're going to need the committee to feel good about them. The fact that the Northern Illinois loss is that far in the rearview mirror, and they still have that victory over Texas A&M, and the Aggies are playing wonderfully. So as they go, so can Notre Dame. So I like where Notre Dame sits here with the remaining schedule.
I like how they rebounded from that NIU loss. And I sat there and we all talked about it. I said, maybe Marcus Freeman's not the guy to run this ship, because we've seen those type of losses throughout his tenure as the head coach. But they're buying into what he's selling, and this team is getting better each and every week. AT, you hit the attrition on the offensive line and the defense, allowing them to find themselves, because we know that unit has to work in unison. And Reggie Love gives you a great option if you're not able to pass the ball down the field, and we saw what he did today. This guy can hit the home run for you, but defensively, that secondary, they're pretty good against the pass. I love how the linebackers, Kaiser and Bowen, are playing.
Reggie Love is his cousin. It's his play cousin. This is Jeremiah Love. We know what you had meant to his head.
He has a touchdown in every game.
Did I go Nutty Professor on that?
Yeah, you did. You did.
You did, but you're absolutely right. Joe Rudolph has done a masterful job with that unit. When Jagusa went down and they lost a guard, they were on offensive linemen 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8, 8 and 9, and they figured out a way. The future for this Notre Dame offensive line is really, really bright. But I think the thing for the offense, though, fellas, they finally have an identity. They thought they were going to be something early on.
Exactly.
They figured out it didn't work. They now know who they are.
Mike Denbrock has figured out Riley Leonard. They now know who each other is, and there's some harmony there. Remember, Denbrock was at LSU last year coaching Jaden Daniels. It didn't just happen overnight for Jaden Daniels. Year 2, the numbers started going through the roof. Denbrock now understands exactly what he's got. He's building concepts through the passing game that he's familiar with, and then the legs are churning out great yards as well as forcing safeties up into the box, which gives you more passing opportunity.
And we've talked about how Riley Leonard would fit really well at Navy or at Army. And again, Black Knights probably the toughest team remaining on their schedule. In terms of identity, they're probably the only team on that schedule that feels good about where they're at right now.
Well, I think you can't just overlook a rivalry game, which is USC, and they have to go out to California. So AT has played in that one numerous times, so he understands whether
Reggie
they're down
Love
or up.
Out in California.
Reggie Love actually is Hollywood studio in California. Come here, Cletus. Cletus, come here. Come here. No, you're not going to just waltz in the Coliseum, and I know they've lost 4 conference games, USC has, and you're just not going to waltz in there and overlook that football team. They'll show up with some pride.
And that's important for Notre Dame. They have to win out. I think that NIU game is behind them, but if they stumble along the way to an unranked team, that's going to really hurt them. Ironically, that Army game, with them being ranked, is actually going to help the Irish potentially if they can do to them what they did to Navy today.
No doubt. And look, Notre Dame being number 12 doesn't do you any good if there's a Group of 5 champion who's ranked beneath you, if there's, say, an ACC champion who's ranked beneath you. So there is the potential right now. Boise State's behind them. Pitt is behind them going into the weekend. And you were on the sideline for what Pitt was able to do against Syracuse. It was a pick 6 Pitt craziness.
For those who play Lotto, you would have loved this one. It was pick 6 extravaganza.
Oh, don't do that!
Holy smokes, was it the Panther defense opportunistic all night long. Kyle McCord just wants to flush this film because it was
Those are the ones
looking
that weren't tipped,
the
by
blue
the way.
jerseys going by you. Almost 5 picks in total, 3 to the house.
He was harassed, hounded, and hunted all night long. And when they didn't sack him and they had 4 in the game, he sacked himself. And to go along with these 5 interceptions and 3 pick sixes. And guys, that's just atrocious. And Syracuse was coming off a bye, so kudos to Pitt. And for them to protect their backyard, coming off a bye as well, and say, hey, our defense is getting healthier. And that's the Pitt D we have seen under Narduzzi. A D that just hunts like crazy, opportunistic, but they apply so much pressure on opposing offenses.
And prior to this game, they'd been giving up a ton of yards.
Yeah.
They've been getting torched a little bit. But to your point, the ball just seemed to bounce in the right area for
It
them.
bounced.
Narduzzi's mantra this year, fellas, was prove it. Let's not talk about it. Let's go out there and prove it. And they're doing it. But they're doing it by winning the turnover margin. They're +7. They're doing it by scoring when they get in the red zone touchdowns, 77%. 50% touchdowns allowed when they're on the defensive side. They're winning ball games because they're a complete team. Ben Sauls, their kicker, dude's kicked 50 straight PATs, 14 straight field goals without a miss this year.
There's the jinx.
Special teams defense. Sorry, Ben.
He went deep. It went deep.
What did Harry S. Truman say? He said the buck stops here.
Okay.
That's what Pat Narduzzi
he kicks on
understands.
too.
That's what Pat Narduzzi understands about being the head coach. He had Frank Signetti. The offense was stuck. He made a change. He went and gets this kid from Western Carolina, Cade Bell, and he brings him in. He says, play high tempo, up, full speed ahead. He goes and gets a backup quarterback from Alabama, Eli Holstein, 4th string there, not going to get the play, and they have put together an offense. And they came from behind to beat Cincinnati. They came from behind to beat West Virginia. They beat North Carolina by scoring a bunch of points. Now they've been a little sluggish, less than 300 yards in each of the last 2 games, but there's still this opportunistic, find a way to win kind of organization. Huge game on the road next week in Dallas to play SMU.
Yes, at SMU, then Virginia, then they get Clemson. So we'll know.
Yeah.
We'll know what we need to know about this team.
But what we always say in NASCAR, Adam, you notice cautions breed cautions, and same with winning and the manner in which they win. You mentioned it, winning at Cincinnati, winning at home in the backyard brawl, in the winning moments of those ball games. That breeds confidence, getting healthier on the defensive side of the ball, having all your charges available to you. But yeah, it's not going to get any easier. SMU is a legit foe. We'll see what happens to Virginia. Not looking as great the last
Locker
few
room
weeks.
where everybody's contributing. Like this locker room has to be a blast.
Guys, can we wrap this up real quick so I can go back and look up whatever BJ said about NASCAR? What you know about NASCAR?
Reggie Love is his cousin. He's a big NASCAR
I'm the
driver.
only NASCAR fan here.
Apparently.
Well, you
Yes.
actually, no,